There was a time when you never saw me without Tank, or him without me. But over time, things changed. I believe he started feeling like he had let me down because he always looked up to me. He knows my potential and capabilities. The fight against Lamont Roach was a prime example of how things have shifted. Judges Eric Marlinski scored the bout 115-113 in favor of Gervonta Tank Davis, while Steve Weisfeld and Glenn Feldman both scored at 114-114, resulting in a majority draw. Adrien Broner was not part of Davis's training camp for this fight, yet he had much to say about it. His comments weren't meant to attack Davis, whom he considers a little brother, but he did speak some harsh truths. Broner acknowledged that Tank has grown weary over the years, which possibly led to his unexpected retirement announcement in December. Right now, things between me and Tank are different. We still love each other, but we don't talk every day like we used to, Broner admitted. Broner suggested that Davis's performance against Frank Martin also showed signs of weariness that weren't there before. However, he believes Tank's impressive career justifies whatever struggles he's facing now. Whether it's age or fatherhood taking its toll, Davis has already achieved enough to be respected. Yet Broner made a controversial claim. He scored the fight against Roach in favor of Tank. He argued that Lamont Roach hadn't done enough to decisively take the victory. Davis's recent history has been marked by inconsistencies in his professional commitments. Before his fight against Francisco Fonseca nearly 8 years ago, Davis missed the grand arrivals during fight week, a pattern he repeated last year against Frank Martin. Additionally, he failed to make weight against Fonseca. Despite these setbacks, he remained a dominant force in the ring. When the fight against Roach was announced, many believed Tank would easily win. However, the draw raised serious concerns about his trajectory. Legal troubles have also plagued his career. In 2023, Davis was incarcerated for 44 days after violating house arrest terms and was sentenced to 3 years of probation in May of the same year. Despite these challenges, his punching power remains unmatched for someone of his height and weight. Now, Davis faces a crucial decision. If he wants to remain an undefeated champion and one of boxing's biggest names, he must commit to his career both inside and outside the ring. He hinted at another fight before a rematch with Roach, but many believe an immediate rematch is necessary. A dominant win would reaffirm his status as America's most popular boxer. Roach and his team have already begun the process of appealing the fight's outcome, arguing that a crucial knockdown was not counted in his favor. On social media, Roach expressed frustration, stating, "If that knockdown was counted, I would have won by unanimous decision." He defended his performance, asserting that he executed the perfect strategy against Tank. The controversy surrounding the fight has fueled debate about Davis's abilities. While some argue that Tank was exposed, others believe Roach simply fought. A masterful fight. Regardless, Davis needs to bounce back. His reputation remains intact, but the doubt cast over his last performance lingers. To erase any uncertainties, he must defeat Roach convincingly in a rematch. Despite the controversy surrounding his last fight, Gervonta Tank Davis remains one of the biggest names in boxing. However, his majority draw against Lamont Roach has left lingering doubts about his dominance. Many fans and analysts argue that Roach deserved the victory and that the result should have been overturned. Yet the New York State Athletic Commission refused to change the outcome, leaving the draw on Davis's record. This decision has fueled further debate about fairness in boxing, and whether Davis is truly as untouchable as he once seemed. Davis now faces a crucial turning point in his career. He has hinted at an immediate rematch with Roach, a fight that would allow him to reclaim his credibility. If Davis wants to maintain his status as one of the most marketable fighters in the sport, he must deliver a decisive win. Otherwise, his reputation may continue to decline, especially among fans who feel he was exposed in the Roach fight. The role of Adrien Broner. While Davis is dealing with his own struggles, Adrien Broner remains a key figure in his life. The two have had an up and down relationship over the years, but Broner has always been vocal about his support for Davis. At the same time, Broner has had his own battles inside and outside the ring, making his boxing future uncertain. Broner's career has been a roller coaster, filled with incredible highs and devastating lows. Once considered a future legend, he has struggled with personal demons that have derailed his progress. His comeback fight against Blair Cobbs was supposed to mark a new beginning, but instead he suffered a humiliating defeat. Many questioned whether Broner still had the discipline and drive to compete at the highest level. Still, Davis has been there for Broner, just as Broner has been there for him in the past. After a long hiatus, Broner returned to training camp with Davis, hoping to reignite his passion for the sport. He openly credited Davis for helping him refocus, stating that without his influence, he might have never stepped back into the ring. Can Davis overcome his challenges? For Davis, the road ahead is clear. He must prove that he still belongs among the elite. His controversial draw with Roach has raised questions about whether he is still at his peak. His next fight, whether it's a rematch with Roach or a bout against another top contender, will be the ultimate test. Davis has always been known for his knockout power and aggressive style, but his recent performances have shown signs of wear and tear. Some believe that fatherhood, legal troubles, and the demands of his career have taken a toll on him. Others argue that he simply underestimated Roach and will bounce back stronger than ever. What's next for Broner? As for Broner, his future remains uncertain. He has expressed a desire to win another world title, but his recent performances suggest that may be an uphill battle. He has fought only twice in the last 5 years, and his inactivity has raised concerns about whether he can still compete at the highest level. At 34, Broner is running out of time to make a serious comeback. He has spoken openly about his struggles with addiction and mental health, and his supporters hope he can find stability both inside and outside the ring. Whether he continues fighting or decides to step away from the sport for good, his legacy remains complicated. The bigger picture, Davis and Broner represent two different stages of a fighter's career, one still in his prime but facing new challenges, and the other trying to reclaim past glory. Their bond has been a source of strength for both, but at the end of the day, boxing is an individual sport. Each must carve his own path, and the decisions they make in the coming months will define their legacies. For Davis, the rematch with Roach could be the fight that restores his reputation, or the one that confirms his decline. For Broner, every fight could be his last, making his next move all the more important. Fans will be watching closely, waiting to see whether these two fighters can overcome their struggles and prove they still belong in the spotlight. One of the lightweight division's rising stars. Names like Shakur Stevenson and Devin Haney have been thrown around, but those fights would pose even greater risks. Both Stevenson and Haney are known for their technical skills and defensive mastery, making them difficult matchups for someone like Davis, who relies heavily on power. If Davis chooses to fight Roach again, it will be a battle for redemption. If he seeks a different challenge, it will be a chance to prove he's still the dominant force he claims to be. Either way, his next fight will be career-defining. Broner, one last shot at glory. Adrien Broner's situation is much more precarious. Unlike Davis, who still has time on his side, Broner is in the twilight of his career. At 34, his best years are likely behind him, but he remains determined to make one final run for a championship. Broner's recent loss to Blair Cobbs was a devastating blow. Many believed it was his last real chance to prove he could still compete at the highest level. Instead, he was outboxed and outclassed, leaving fans wondering whether he should retire for good. However, Broner has never been one to back down from a challenge, and he insists that he still has more to give. The potential comeback opponents for Broner include a younger, hungry fighter who could use a big name like Broner on his resume. Jay is unique in boxing, a sport where loyalty is rare and relationships often dissolve when money and fame come into play. But through the ups and downs, they have remained close, supporting each other even when the world turned against them. However, as Davis moves forward in his career, he must be careful not to let Broner's struggles become his own. Many fighters in the past have been dragged down by the people around them, and Davis must ensure that his loyalty to Broner does not interfere with his own success. For Broner, his friendship with Davis may be one of the few things keeping him motivated. If he wants to prove that he still belongs in the sport, he must take his training and preparation seriously, something he has struggled with in the past. The bigger picture, a fight for legacy. Both Davis and Broner are fighting for more than just wins. They are fighting for their legacies. For Davis, the question is whether he can maintain his status as one of boxing's biggest stars, or if his recent struggles are a sign of decline. He has the talent, the power, and the fan base to remain at the top, but he must prove that he still has the hunger and discipline to dominate. For Broner, the stakes are even higher. He is no longer fighting for championships. He is fighting to stay relevant. His legacy is already complicated, with flashes of brilliance overshadowed by missed opportunities and personal struggles. If he wants to leave the sport with respect, he must show that he still has something left in the tank. On final thoughts, what happens next? The next few months will be crucial for both fighters. Davis must decide whether to rematch Roach or take on a new challenge, while Broner must determine whether he still has what it takes to compete. Regardless of what happens, their stories serve as a reminder of how quickly things can change in boxing. One moment, you're on top of the world. The next, you're fighting to stay relevant. The only certainty? Boxing fans will be watching closely, waiting to see if Davis can reclaim his dominance, and if Broner can make one last run at glory. Tuned for more updates, and don't forget to subscribe for the latest boxing news and analysis. Until next time, keep your gloves up and your eyes on the prize.